Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu Love, Life and Other Stories, dein Podcast für mehr Inspiration und Lebensmut. Mein Name ist Katrin Andrea Preisner und ich freue mich sehr, dass du hier bist. Ich bin systemischer Coach und Gründerin von Heart and Mind Journey. In meiner Arbeit begleite ich Frauen, die spüren, so wie es gerade ist, kann es nicht mehr weitergehen, die sich nach mehr Klarheit sehnen, nach innerer Ruhe und nach dem Mut, endlich ihren eigenen, ganz persönlichen Weg zu gehen. Mit Klarheit, Selbstvertrauen und innerer Freiheit unterstütze ich sie dabei, alte Blockaden zu lösen, Ängste loszulassen und kraftvolle Entscheidungen zu treffen. Mein Herzensanliegen ist es, Menschen in Phasen der Veränderung, an Lebensgabelungen oder in Momenten der Orientierungslosigkeit zu stärken, damit sie wirklich ihr volles Potenzial entfalten und ihren ganz eigenen, erfüllten Weg gehen können. Für ein Leben in tiefer Verbundenheit mit sich selbst und somit mit allen anderen. In diesem Podcast nehme ich dich mit in meine Welt, eine Welt voller Geschichten, Geschichten, die das Leben schreibt. Herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Folge von Love, Life and Other Stories. Heute habe ich Suvarna Joshi zu Gast. Suvarna ist eine gute Freundin von mir und sie ist auch klinische Psychotherapeutin, die sich auf Paar- und Familientherapie spezialisiert hat. Ich bin selbst großer Fan von ihr und sie ist für mich einfach eine Frau, die hat so ein tiefes Verständnis für die feinen, ja oft herausfordernden Dynamiken zwischen zwei Menschen hat. Wir sprechen im Interview darüber, wie es wirklich möglich ist, gesunde und lebendige Beziehungen zu gestalten. Wir sprechen aber auch darüber, über diese schier manchmal endlos erscheinenden Streitigkeiten, die wir haben, und sie gibt aus ihrem Erfahrungsschatz einfach Tipps, wie es möglich ist, auch trotzdem noch eine echte Chance in diesen Beziehungen zu sehen und was es braucht, damit Liebe nicht in Machtkämpfen verloren geht. Suvarna teilt auch mit uns, warum es gerade in konfliktreichen Beziehungen oft an klarer Kommunikation fehlt und welche Fähigkeiten wir entwickeln dürfen, um wirklich zu sagen, was wir brauchen, fühlen, wollen und vor allen Dingen auch, was wir tun können, wenn Enttäuschungen sich häufen und auch, wenn wir uns im Gegenüber verlieren. Besonders in der Anfangsphase ist diese Dynamik oft ganz präsent und ja, wir verlieren uns oft im anderen, um vielleicht dem anderen zu gefallen, aber auch, weil vielleicht so unsicher mit uns selber sind, und was wir da dagegen tun können, das erfährst du in dieser Folge. Ich wünsche dir auf jeden Fall jetzt ganz viel Freude und Inspiration beim Hören. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Love, Life and Other Stories. Today I have a very special guest. Today at my terrace, actually in front of my room in Dharamkot, like Suvarna Joshi. She is a psychotherapist. And yeah, we met actually through a friend, and I was glad that he introduced us because like we had now little time together, and always when I met you, it was so inspiring, and you have so much to share, and that's why I'm very, very happy that I can have you today as my guest in my podcast. So very warm welcome to you, Suvarna.
Thank you, Catherine. It's my pleasure to have met you here in Dharamkot unexpectedly. And also I'm thankful to our mutual friend to make us cross each other's paths. And it has been a pleasure to meet you. Also, thank you for inviting me to your podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe you could like give us like a short introduction about you, where you have grown up, what are you doing? Like I just shortly mentioned it, but maybe you can give us a short overview about you and what are you doing?
Sure. So I'm a clinical psychologist by training and a psychotherapist in practice for now about over 13 years. And my area of specialization happens to be couples and family therapy. I grew up in Pune, which is a city in the state of Maharashtra in India. I grew up there. I studied till my master's in my own city, and then I moved to Bangalore to do my further higher studies, where I did MPhil and subsequently PhD in the area of family therapy. So that's my alma mater, which is the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences in Bangalore, NIMANS.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I have studied, and then subsequently I have had stints in academia where I have taught, I have supervised, I continue to supervise, and I continue to also function as educator and supervisor to young therapists in training. And I have my own private practice that has been operational for about 7 years, over 7 years now. I, with some of my other colleagues who have similar visions about the work that we do, we have come together to form a collective, mental health collective, the name of which is Good Enough. So the idea, just to tell you what that is in maybe a couple of lines, is so this concept of good enough mother was introduced by a very famous psychoanalyst David Winnicott, who talked about how for the good development of a child, the mother doesn't need to be perfect mother, catering to all the needs of the child. The mother needs to be good enough because the child also needs experiences to tap into his or her own skills and abilities, also experiences of failures through which the child grows. And this is a concept that we think is so applicable nowadays in our culture of perfectionism everywhere, that everybody wants perfect life, perfect relationships, perfect jobs, and we all know there's nothing like that. That's a unending pursuit of perfection, which has cost many of us our mental health. That's somewhere at the root of our mental troubles that we all face at various degrees of intensity. So we think that being good enough and claiming our good enoughness is kind of an antidote to the perfectionist culture around us, and hence that's how we have named our initiative. So that's
Very
about
beautiful.
myself.
And I think you mentioned such an important point. I think there's also so much pressure nowadays on parents, or even like from the children back to their parents, like blaming them and that they made something not good. But at the end, like everyone tries most probably the best, no, for the circumstances which are possible. Yeah.
Yeah, very true, very true. There is a pressure from a child to an adult to everybody right now. Yeah.
What brought you to this profession? Like, what was your driving factor that you were saying, oh, I will do this and this will be my future job?
Yeah, I think it came to me surprisingly quite early. This is one area I say in my life where I have had relatively great clarity of purpose than other areas of my life. I used to read a lot. I used to, while growing up in my school years also, I used to read diverse kinds of books. And through that, I had my own questions at whatever appropriate age, appropriate levels. And I used to keep reading just to find answers to my own questions at that point of time. And like that, I think I kind of, got introduced to some material which now I know belongs to psychology books. And my father was also, he has had his own journey of coming back from the background of technology, but finding, that no, that's not really something that resonates so much with him. So he kind of ended up taking courses and learning for a long time, psychology being one of them. I got kind of introduced to his journals of experiments that they would do in the psychology lab. So I think I would have been around late high school at that time, and I was just intrigued by, okay, what is this subject which is not technically science, where there's no tubes and stuff, no parata, but they still do experiments. So I had all this curiosity. So I think there were right conditions also for me to get drawn to this, apart from my own pursuits. And yes, and then I had decided that I want to pursue this. And then I discovered that, oh, there are these professionals who are called therapists. And then I was fascinated by just the concept of just allowing people to not just heal through their difficulties, but the power of conversations that the therapy has at the heart of therapy. The power of conversations is something that I always found fascinating. Power of words also to heal. So that's how I think I got fascinated about this, and then I continued just pursuing it. And then on that road, I when I look back, I can't, I don't real, I mean, I didn't realize when did I pursue the higher education, and then it felt like a calling at some point of time, and I just kept following it.
You just listen your heart and keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
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 Very, very beautiful. I mean, we had already a few talks about it, and I've always found it very fascinating what you were telling, also from your experiences, especially you specialized now in family therapy and couple
Yeah.
therapy. So, with what kind of problems couples are coming to you, or like your clients? What are the main topics? Are there like any repetitions of topics, or is it always a different one?
I always say there are as many individuals as there are so many stories. So at some level there is always a uniqueness to the concerns and troubles that people bring to therapy spaces. And my experience, let me kind of bracket that a little bit, because I see largely urban couples from Indian cities, and also those people who are of Indian origin and have been living in different parts of the world. So my experience largely comes from having worked with urban population, somewhere, in the range beginning from, let's say, even 20, sometimes as early as 20, or and going up to sometimes 55 plus. So that's the range of couples that I see. And the issues are so closely linked with our, I feel, lifestyles also these days, where there are so many stimulations, so many different dreams that we are always kind of shown. And I would like to kind of, quote Esther Perel here, which I resonate with her understanding as well, when she says that the challenges of modern relationships being that we want our best friend, soulmate, the perfect sexual partner, a good counselor, a perfect, co-parent, everybody in one person.
Everything in all, like a
Yeah.
huge package.
Yes, I resonate with that understanding, that there are so my just to place my understanding of different issues that couples come with can be actually tracked down to what kind of expectations people have from each other, sometimes in the domain of parenting, sometimes in the domain of sexuality, sometimes in the domain of communication generally about their needs. So it's a range, but I do feel that the kind of support systems, the social structures that existed at some point of time to hold all of us are, and generally, there is been kind of at a larger level breakdown of institutions that is being also reflected in, particularly speaking about India, where I come from, in certain sections of, again, urban population, the entire idea of marriage and partnerships is undergoing kind of a breakdown and a re-evolution and a rethinking. So that is something that I would say that is largely where I will place different problems, without going into the very, details of that. At broad level, I can say these are the themes that I see.
Mhm.
uh,
What do you
yeah.
think changed, like in the last years, when you say like the picture what people have from marriage, relationship, and what is like the recreation of this picture? What is the
Mm,
viewpoint now,
yeah, yeah.
or the expectations maybe around that?
What has changed, definitely along with the social structures, I think the market economy also has entered relational spaces, and the overall meaning that we associate with relationships and work also has changed. Again, talking about the background where I come from, now in my generation, there have been, in urban setups, there have been huge number of percentage of women in workforce, which is still, our national average is low, but still, and I'm talking about the privileged urban people who have had access to education. So with women's education, the kind of, expectations that traditional marriage systems had from women, they started questioning. And my understanding is also kind of rooted in the feminist understanding of things, that when women started questioning their roles, that kind of, and not just questioning their roles, but kind of refusing to participate in certain oppressive patterns that have been going for a long period of time, preventing them from tapping into their own talents, having other pursuits, and not just being tied to only the parental jobs, or I mean, of course, all of them are wonderful, but I think what's really important is the element of choice that has come into the picture. And generally my feeling is that, so as much as women have had their own journeys and evolution, somewhere men seem to be little lagging behind in questioning those role structures and kind of redefining their roles. There are many honorable exceptions in this when I'm speaking about it. I don't want to kind of overgeneralize it and make it too simplistic, but just talking about a theme, I do still feel there is a lot of scope and improvement there for us to really define. For people, I think there is a lot of choice now in terms of, it's not just about what you put out to the society as, a power couple image or whatever, but it has more to do with what kind of an idea of a marriage do you have. What do you expect from your own self? What are you bringing to the table for the other person? What kind of a partner do I want to become? That is not the question that I see many people asking themselves. We all have ideas and, maybe a little better clarity about what do I want from the other person. But the question, okay, what do I want to bring in, and what kind of a partner I would like to become in a relationship? I think that is a question that we all need to kind of keep asking, refining, and I feel men also need to do that, quite a lot more, particularly when, again, in the country that I'm coming from. And I believe to some extent it also is kind of applicable even speaking about the some pockets of global population that I have kind of access to from my different pursuits of learning and teaching. I do feel that we need to kind of, bring in more reflections, because we are living in the times where it's, we are spoiled for choices everywhere, right? From clothes to, material things to even, the destinations that we travel to. It's unending, right? And I think so is our pursuit of happiness, which is unending. So somewhere defining what is really fundamentally important to me as a person is really important that we all need to ask.
Mhm. That we know really who we are when we go also in a relationship, that I sometimes observe this with myself or also with others in my surrounding, that we go in a relationship and then we got lost again, like, and then because we are not sure, then we adapt. Or I feel also, especially when you're sensitive, then you feel the other person, then you think this is yours, and then you go out of your system and go inside the other system. And I think, and then it crashes sometimes because you feel not valued or not seen with your personality, or you step out too much, and then it creates like lots of problems, I find always. Yeah.
That's so true, Catherine. What you're talking about, that's a very important dynamic that I see is so important even in the early stages of relationships, right? And when I'm saying early stages of relationships, it could be with the same person or it could be with different people at different points of time. But I think it's so important to become aware of what you're saying. It's so easy to get lost when two people's paths cross. We all kind of carry our own personal dreams, hopes, with us, and yeah, the understanding of boundaries becomes very crucial there. To that always intricate balance between to not abandon self in the pursuit of love, and not be so tight and rigid about our own ideas that we kind of lose the sight of how beautiful togetherness can be. So I think that's a very important dynamic that you are pointing to. That's again a very common pattern that I see. That how we are handling ourselves in the relationship while being in the relationship, I think that becomes very crucial to have a good understanding of boundaries and our sense of self both.
What would you say, like, when someone is completely maybe new to this topics, haven't like discovered anything about personal development, and we're like, oh, I'm very new to this concept also, what would you give as a therapist as a recommendation when you say, okay, how to start? And
How to start maybe about
thinking about it, who I am and who I want to be in this relationship, who I want to become, or what can I contribute also to the relationship.
What I see is that there are multiple pathways through which we can do this. And of course, something that traditionally we have been doing is, read as much as you can. And I think that's another culture that I feel is something that we are kind of losing, because when we read, I think that allows a lot of scope to also think along. And I really think it's a different experience. We are doing a podcast. I mean, that's another way for people to listen to the podcasts, books, and both these would get you in very different states of mind. So the kind of reflections that one will do while they read, I think they're different vis-a-vis when we are listening to what I love about podcast and our current content is that you can pause, you can rewind it, listen to it again and again. That's great. Which is the same with the books as well. You can pause, you can read it as many times as you want. So I think it's really important to slow down. uh, of course, keep learning, get knowledge of course, from other people's experiences, which is from books, podcast. We have kind of experts going and, delivering talks everywhere from there. But I think it's also important to sit with your own experience and reflect, take times out to reflect. Ask these questions about how am I seeing myself? I think the reflective practices, and that's what essentially, this reminds me, now of the place that we are sitting in, Dharamkot, where we have so many institutions around here which teach spirituality, meditation practices. And I think many people, I think meditation is again a very misunderstood practice. It doesn't have to be that we need a thoughtless mind. Rather, meditation first, what it teaches us is to how to organize your own thoughts, how to start seeing your own thoughts. So many of these practices could help people, but I think at the bottom of it is to take some time out for ourselves, just be in our own company. And then maybe at a very basic, simple level, just think about the day that you have spent. And what do you really think you have collected throughout the day for yourself? What are you holding? What are you carrying? And maybe that could be just a beginning. Also, from the relationship, somebody goes on a date, comes back. I often feel, in psychotherapeutic spaces, we this is what we do. Even if I have to work with one individual with their relationship issues, even if it is not a couple, oftentimes I notice that we are just moving through experiences. We are not taking time to sit, process, reflect it. And see, initially it's difficult to do that by your own self, and that's why we have spaces like psychotherapy, or maybe with our very trusted confidants, very close friends, whom we trust, where we sit and because I think when in the presence of another person, it becomes sometimes for some people a little easier to start seeing themselves. We all grew up in seeing ourselves from other people's eyes, so that's something which is very easy and innate to all of us. But yeah, I think that's it's like when we eat food, we need some time to digest it. Like that, when we are collecting so many experiences throughout the day, particularly in a place like Dharamkot, I see many people. I learned in few weeks time that many people arrive here after some crisis in their lives, and many times it's relational crisis. And I think it's really important. You see so many people. I think this is a wonderful place, a very lively, vibrant place, which gives you opportunity to meet so many wonderful people. But one of the challenges that I was also identifying also for myself here is to take out the time and just see, okay, what kind of influences I am carrying from this meeting on myself. And this is not to judge anybody or to ourselves, but this is just to know, just to be aware that, oh, it was a wonderful conversation, but right now I feel drained. I feel that I'm tired and my body needs rest. And that's how we kind of, slowly learn to get in touch with our own needs and balance them within relationships. So I would say that anybody who wants to begin is as a simple practice, just take some time out for yourself, maybe at the end of the day or maybe at the beginning of the day, and just reflect what is that I'm carrying from the previous day, and is that the direction I really want to go in?
That's very beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I think this is so important also because we are like drained or like overwhelmed with so many experiences, like, or what people say. And even like if you like a person, for example, it can trigger and I think especially like when you're like attracted in the beginning, maybe then you think, I don't care, but deep down like it starts or it did, and then it like it's much stronger, the trigger points, as like in a friendship. That's also what I find always interesting, that like a person you're attracted or you want to be with this in a relationship, that it triggers you much more, and then like there you can see the wounds which you haven't healed yet. So I think that's why I think it's also important to go in this kind of relationships, to see each other maybe from different perspectives, to see yourself from the eyes from someone.
Yes, that makes complete sense, because relationships, as you correctly pointed out, they hold mirrors to ourselves. I always feel that we are living at two levels. One is the narrative, is the story that we tell ourselves about our experiences, and one is the actual experiences. So, and hence it's important to reflect, because the story that we tell ourselves we may be aware of, but the actual experiences that we are having, I think in relationships they become quite stark. You can't miss them. They're quite there, because the other person will show you in case you are not seeing it. And yeah, and that's true, that then that is when our unhealed traumas, hurts, wounds start becoming visible to us. provided that we are owning our part of the dynamic and not kind of putting it all onto the other person, and we are also seeing the part that we are playing in all this. So that's again very important.
Starting again with ourselves
Yeah.
and not with the other person. So why do you think there is always so much trouble in relationships, that we put our anger or at the other person? Of course, it's always related with expectations what I have, but how can I start? Like when I'm complete, I don't know, for example, my boyfriend did something which was not respectful. I was like very I don't know, very angry on him because it was not nice for me. It like he overstepped my boundaries. It was not good. How do I handle it, like from a good foundation, or from a very base where I think, okay, this is better. This is better how I behave, and it's also better for the health of my relationship to the other person.
Right. That's a good question. And let's break it down, as we have kind of already established that everything kind of begins with us. So our relationship to our own selves is kind of fundamental. And of course, we are all, as we have also established, very relational beings. So let's say something goes off the way you said, you felt disrespected, you felt your boundaries were violated. And our tendency is to kind of, first blame. But that blaming voice, we need to just see that is just telling us what's not going okay over here, which again has consequences for us, right? When I'm feeling disrespected, when my boundaries are getting violated, the person who is hurting is me over here. I think it's important to first come back to yourself and be with yourself, either with yourself or either with, again, a confidant, a therapist, or a trusted friend. And I think it's important for us to first see ourselves, what's really happening to me, what's not okay here. Because when we are caught in the loop of blaming, what we do inadvertently is that we still keep processing information about the other person's experience. Oh, he did this. Why did he say that? Oh my God, what is the implication of that? What's really going on in his mind? What does he think of me? Does he even see me as a, whatever, a person? Or does he respect me? Does he even see my abilities? So what I'm constantly doing is, from the perspective, if I get caught into this blame cycle only, is that I'm just processing actually things only from the other person's point of view. Many of us do that. And we feel quite, we kind of vent it out when we are blaming, which is fair. But I think once we have gone through that cycle, it's important to come back, step out of it, and see, hey, what's happening? I'm the person who's hurting here. So I need to hold my hand first. So come back and see what's not going okay for you. Maybe that voice who is criticizing your boyfriend right now, or a girlfriend, or a partner, is it's just telling you what's not okay with you. And that's actually a very good voice of your own boundaries, which is kind of disguised as a blame when it comes out in the interpersonal space. So I think it's important for us to kind of see it as that it's a my protective voice, which is there to protect my boundaries. And once we listen to it, and when we take that space, I think by this time we all would have kind of come to a different understanding. And then it's important to very honestly and authentically communicate that something which is not okay. I think that's a very, again, at the heart of relationships, lifeline of relationships, which is trust. And trust is built when we are showing up in our relational spaces with vulnerability and with authenticity, both. So I think the authentic communication becomes the next step after that. That of course your partner needs to know that this is not okay for you, and then have a conversation. And as you know, as you were speaking, as we are saying that these are the lifelines of healthy relationships, blame happens to be actually, one of the very difficult things for many couples to break. So now I'm kind of also touching upon that previous question that you asked. What's the most challenging thing? So in the space of communication, the domain of communication, I think learning to communicate about our needs without resorting to excessive blame. I'm not saying, we are not enlightened beings who will not blame each other, but not
Just
doing
love.
only that. Yeah, not doing only that.
Yeah.
Not resorting to excessive blame, but learning to communicate and elicit each other's cooperation. I think that's a skill that we all need to kind of know that it's a skill. It comes over a period of time, and as any other skill, you need to practice it.
That's a very important point, I think. Yeah, to really practice it, that you don't like getting lost in this anger and this. I know myself, like in this narrow tunnel where you just go full of anger, full power, but then afterwards you think, what the hell, what I have done, and that it's really good to take a step back and see it from maybe from far or from a wider perspective. And yeah, that is just like, as you said, like every feeling now is like has a voice or has a meaning behind. So what is when I feel anger, what is there actually? Yeah? Because we want to keep the relationship, but sometimes we are so mad or whatever that we destroy it also and bring many scars to the relationship.
That's so true. This is how it starts getting damaged over a period of time. And and then we suddenly feel, oh, how did we land here?
Yeah, and then we are surprised that everything is like, all over the place. What would you say when in a relationship there are many scars? I mean, when there are many things happened, what would you say can help that, it's maybe also rescued in a way, that it's not like, would you say when there are so many scars, there's so much pain and suffering, that there's a way back, that you can like heal the wounds, or would you say it's very difficult after a while, after it's like too far?
It's always good to intervene early. Stitch in time saves the nine. That's that old saying works everywhere. So of course it's always good to not kind of put issues under the carpet, address them. It's very important to it's very difficult, I acknowledge that, to have hard conversations. Again, is it's a skill, as we name it. It's a skill. Know that it's okay if you're not doing it the right way all the time, but keep that in mind, that we need to do that at some point of time. We can't just keep pushing issues under the rug. So it's, of course, it's important to start early, but I feel if there is some level of real genuine love and connection and warmth, affection that exist in the relationship, many relationships can be saved. I think we kind of, in our, again, modern times, feel quite, sometimes pessimistic about saving our relationships. But I do think that it is possible. Yes, provided that both the partners are willing to put in efforts. No relationship just, develops so smoothly just on its own, like I said, that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist.
Hard work.
I think the hard work, the way and I feel we all are so willing to put in hard work in any other area, right?
Right,
Of our
completely.
lives.
Yeah, true.
But we feel, for some reason, we all have this kind of unsaid expectation, even to ourselves, that relationships just should move smoothly, like a smooth breeze, but they are far from being them. And okay, I'm not saying that your relationship needs to be all the hard work, because of course that's not what you want. People who will rather help hold you in your hard times. So of course it's not the other extreme, that you have to just keep working. But I think we need to find a kind of a golden mean, where we are not just saying that, oh, my relationship just should work organically, the way people speak about it. It's not gonna. Maybe it will have phases where it will work organically, but it is at some point of time when things start getting a little challenging. It is gonna require work from both the sides, and I think that is something that we need to keep in mind. Because yes, on the other hand, it's also true that beyond, if the damage kind of reaches to a point that crosses a certain threshold, then it becomes progressively difficult. I would just take an example of something like our even physical health. Let's say, somebody has a lifestyle disorder, like, let's say, high blood pressure, diabetes, metabolic condition. There is so much that we can do at certain, and then there's good enough time often where we can do so many things and restore our health back. But there are also these thresholds. Once we cross them, they kind of take a lot of time, effort, and then it becomes kind of more difficult. I think the same applies to our relationships as well.
Would you say that it's also good to have maybe someone like a third person already in the beginning of a relationship? Not that when you see, but that who goes with the couple through the different stages? Would you say this is a good thing, or is it not necessary?
I wouldn't say, so basically what you're referring to is having some therapeutic support, right?
Yeah,
In
right.
your relationships. See, I have seen kinds of examples. People who feel, oh, therapy and all this is not for us and we can take care of ourselves. We don't want a third person to come in us. And presence of a third person itself indicates that we are not, doing well. That is one side of it, which isn't again helpful. Presence of a third person doesn't have to be seen between you as something that is a any statement of your relation, the health of your relationship. You need to know what this space can really offer. And on the other hand, completely relying only on your therapist's inputs, or just what emerges in your therapy, that is also taking it again too far, because you need to you know also learn to trust your own self. So I think it could be a good balance that, of course, take help as and when you want and can. You don't have to carry it all alone on your shoulders and, get kind of tired in that. And nor do you have to completely be dependent on it. But yes, it's good to take help from time to time when things get tough for you. And yeah, that's what I would say about the support.
Okay, wow. I think we have to do a second episode. There are so many things to say, and I have still so many questions in my head. But yeah, I want to ask you the last question, which I ask always every guest in my podcast. So when you think about the 18 years old Suvarna, what kind of advice or recommendation would you give her from the perspective of, now?
Now, that's always an interesting question I like to answer. And however many times you ask me, the answer keeps changing. So, one of the answers that I've known is that, when I ask this question to myself, I love that question, by the way. And that's great that you ask all your guests. I'm curious to hear their other people's answers as well. What I would say to my 18-year-old self is that just embrace the age that you're in. I would always think ahead of time, and I was always, wanting to be better and responsible. I think I would just ask myself to take things easy. It's okay. Trust yourself. And what she definitely didn't know is that rest is important. I think it's not 18. My even 30-year-old would not know that. But yeah, so I kind of answered another question of yours. That even to my 30-year-old, I would say that prioritize rest. That's really important to kind of know that a little bit early.
Yeah, very good. I think it's so important to know that we take time to rest and time to reflect, that that everything can be processed. Yeah. Wow, Suvarna, thank you so much for all your wise words and for your wisdom. I'm very glad that you came. Thank you so much. And I will also put everything in the show notes, like the link to your website when people want to work, when they think, oh, I have so many issues. Now I'm so excited and inspired. So I really want to work on that. I will put everything in the show notes about you, about your work. And yeah, thank you so much for your being and your work. I think it's so helpful for so many people. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine. It was a complete pleasure to be with you on this podcast. And I look forward to, in case we do some other, parts.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have to.
I think I really enjoyed.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Willkommen zurück aus der Folge mit Suvarna Joshi. Ich hoffe, du hast für dich ganz, ganz viele Inspirationen mitnehmen können. Hattest, so wie ich, vielleicht auch den ein oder anderen Aha-Moment. Und ja, ich war immer so begeistert, wenn ich Suvarna getroffen habe, über all den Sachen, die sie gesagt hat, weil ich glaube, Beziehungen sind immer noch die Sachen, die uns oft ganz, ganz schwer fallen, und da hoffe ich, dass du ganz viel für dich mitnehmen konntest aus der Folge. Suvarna und ich freuen uns natürlich, wenn du eine Rezension da lässt, entweder auf Spotify oder auf YouTube oder auch gern einen Kommentar auf Instagram. Und ja, damit du keine Folge mehr von Love, Life and Other Stories verpasst, abonniere am besten auf dem Kanal, wo du die Folgen normalerweise hörst, den Podcast. Und wenn du weitere Informationen zu meiner Arbeit, zur systemischen Aufstellungsarbeit oder zum Coaching haben möchtest, dann schau super gerne auf meiner Webseite www.katrinpreisner.com vorbei. Dort findest du auch alle aktuellen Events. Und ansonsten wünsche ich dir jetzt erstmal einen ganz, ganz tollen Tag. Fühl dich von Herzen umarmt, deine Katrin.